I had to take it upon myself to protect my wife. And knowing that I had options and that I could actually choose where, when, who, and how was going to have their hands on my wife and my child made me feel like I was a father. I felt like I was a protector in that moment. And I also know it made my wife feel at ease because she could kind of relax and be like, you know what, Devale got it. Devale got me. Let me make sure the baby's okay. And she didn't have to stress on those things. I have 3 completely different childbirthing experiences. With Jackson, who was our first, we were a little bit nervous because we had no idea what was going on. And Khadeen was full term, and I got a call when I was at the gym that she had to be induced because they were worried about her having preeclampsia. So I was like, I don't know what that is, but hey, if the doctor says they have to induce you, then go to the hospital, let's get induced. So we get to the hospital, and she's going through the process of getting induced, and they start with the epidural. And this is the first time I've ever seen an epidural needle. And the needle comes out and it's this long. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, well, y'all do this. I'm going to go head to the bathroom real quick. And then Khadeen grabs me like, you're not leaving me. So now I'm sitting there, I'm holding her. And they go to put the needle in. And Khadeen, she kind of screams out like, woo! And then they pull the needle out. And I'm like, what happened? And then the nurse was like, she's moving. And I'm like, I'm holding her. She didn't move. So then they go to stick her again, and then she pulls it back out. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? So she ended up having to get stuck 3 times with the epidural, and she got stuck 3 times, and then she was fine after that. She said she didn't feel much pressure. She said everything was fine. So we were waiting hours and hours. The night turned into day. And then finally, we were looking at the monitor, and they were like, well, she's having closer contractions. She's probably going to give birth soon. Doctor leaves. I say, I wouldn't leave if she's going to give birth soon. Like, I know my wife, the baby's going to come fast. Doctor said, oh, it's her first baby. She has time. Khadeen was like, Devale, I feel like I should push. So she starts pushing, and then the baby starts to crown. Jackson is crowning. And I'm like, somebody get the doctor. Like, the baby's coming. She pushes again. His whole head is out. Then finally the doctor runs in, and Jackson's head is already out. She pushed one more time. Jackson came out in a total of, I think it was 1.5 minutes. 3 pushes, Jackson was out. So now Jackson is out, and Jackson was born with a club foot. So I cut the umbilical cord. I'm all excited. They rushed Jackson away from us, and I see Khadeen is sitting there kind of faint. And I'm like, you all right, babe? And she's just like, yeah, I'm just tired. So I go down to look to see, what's going on down there, as most men do. They want to make sure everything is still in place. And she's bleeding, like, profusely, not just a little bit of blood. It's just blood gushing out. So her mom is a nurse, and I say, Mom, does this look normal? And she's like, no, call the doctor. So I call the doctor. I'm like, some help. Finally, the doctor comes back in. They rush Khadeen out, prepare her for surgery. She was in surgery for 7 hours. Ultimately, Jackson came out so fast that it tore her cervix, and she lacerated and had to get 24 stitches internally, almost had to have a blood transfusion. And at that point, I was in shock, because I'm like, here it is, supposed to be the most happiest day of my life. My son is gone because he has a club foot. My wife has been in surgery for 8 hours, and I haven't seen my wife or my son. And I was just kind of like having that panic, like, is this going to be one of those times where you lose your wife during childbirth? So I'm sitting there, and I'm getting real nervous. Finally, the doctor comes back, tells me everything was fine. She didn't need the blood transfusion. Her mom was crying, of course. My mom was kind of concerned. And it was that moment that I had decided that I didn't want to have children ever again, because I didn't want my wife to have to go through that type of pain again. I said, if we ever get through this, I'm done having kids. And then a couple years went by. I talked about this before. Khadeen and I struggled with the after childbirth experience, because I knew nothing about postpartum depression. I knew nothing about breastfeeding. There was so many things that I didn't know about, that I was just like, gosh, the female body goes through so much, not only to carry a child, then give birth to a child, then nurse a child for the first 6 months. I was like, yo, I don't want her to have to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And then we both wanted more children. So then I just took it upon myself to say, you know what? I'm going to educate myself on trying to do things the natural way, because doing my research, I realized that the epidural slows down the birthing process because you can't feel anything. As a woman, your body naturally tells you what's supposed to happen. So I started doing research, and I found out about natural birthing and stuff like that. And I was like, maybe we should just go the natural route because the babies came out so fast. Maybe she didn't need the epidural. So then with Cairo, we decided we're going to go natural. We spoke to our doctor, still was going to go to the hospital, but we weren't going to go there immediately and get the epidural and lay in the bed. Mm-hmm. So we decided to labor at home. So with Cairo, we went full term. Her water broke in the morning. I woke up. I said, okay, let's go through the labor process. We went to the supermarket. We shopped. We watched TV. We just walked around. She went and dropped Jackson to school. We were just acting like a normal day, taking the contractions with each other. And then out of nowhere, she just screamed, "Oh!" I'm like, "What happened?" And she said, "I think my mucus plug came out." I said, "I don't know what that is, but it's nasty. Whatever you're showing me is nasty." But I said, "I think it's time we go to the hospital." Couldn't even get to the hospital, Cody. We jump in the car. By the time I'm driving and she's in the car with me, Cairo starts to crown. Just like Jackson was crowning when we were in the hospital. So Cairo's crowning. When I'm flying to the hospital, running red lights. We get to the front door. I go to park the car. By the time I get back to the hospital, Cairo's already out screaming. And I missed him coming out because it happened that fast. But she had no bleeding. She didn't have to have no medication because she didn't do the epidural or anything like that. We were in the hospital and we were out in about, I think, 48 hours. We didn't take any medication. They tried to offer us, Tylenol. We didn't take anything. They tried to offer us all the medication you were supposed to have. And Khadeen was like, "Yo, I'm good. Let's have my baby." And then once we decided to refuse all the medication, they said, "Well, we need this bed. Y'all got to go." So at that point, I was like, wait a minute. So since we're not taking no medication and we refuse to take the classes because we already have a child, you kicking us out the hospital. We really didn't have to come to this hospital just to have this baby. Plus, y'all billed my insurance $25,000, which they only covered a portion. So I ended up having to pay, I think it was $11,000 because he was born in triage. So I had to pay for the triage. I had to pay for all that. I was like, yo, this is some bullshit. So I started looking at home births. Went through the home birth process with Kaz, and it was amazing. We did everything that we did for Cairo at home. This time, rather than trying to rush to the hospital, I blew up a little air tub. We put the water in there. We hired a doula. We hired a midwife, and she took us through the whole process. And all she kept saying was, "Khadeen, listen to your body. Your body will tell you when the baby is time to come." And Kaz was born right there in our bedroom. As soon as he came out, he lifted his little head up, latched onto the boob. And it was one of the most amazing things because I felt like I was a part of the process. Like I caught him coming out of the water. I caught him, lifted him up with the midwife and put him on K. And it was just like, we did this together, this amazing feat together. And it was peaceful. It was bliss. I wasn't running to park the car. I wasn't worried about triage. It wasn't cold. There wasn't a lot of screaming. It was just cool. It was cool. So I had 3 different experiences and they were all great in their own way.
Before you had kids, what did you think the dad's role was in pregnancy and childbirth?
Before I had kids, I thought the dad's role was to make sure that my wife had no stress. That was it. Just say yes to whatever she wants, whatever she needs, and make sure that she was happy, keep all negative energy away, and that was it. That's honestly what I thought my whole role was. And I was prepared to do that.
Given your 3 experiences, what have you learned about what you can do to improve the process?
Well, what I learned is that I needed to educate myself more on what the female body goes through so that I could understand her reactions to some of the things that are happening. For example, the first time she was pregnant with Jackson, I just thought everything was, oh, it's hormones. She's being a woman. Just say yes, roll your eyes, get whatever she needs, and just give her space. Then I started to learn that sometimes it's not always space they need. They just need you to be around and to be a different type of energy because they are growing a human. Sometimes they need you to rub their feet or rub their back. And the things that you think are small are not small things because you're not carrying a baby. Your stomach doesn't change. Your breasts don't grow. Your underarms. I learned this about pregnancy. Your milk ducts come from your underarms, and your underarms start to get big and lumpy. And for a woman, when you go like this in the morning, that becomes an issue for you. And especially if you're a woman who cares a lot about what you look like, it can be traumatizing. And I feel like for me, it was more important than me just saying yes and giving her space was to be there to constantly give her some affirmation that she's doing a good job and she's going to be healthy and the baby's going to be healthy. And I learned speaking to the child while in utero is so important. Like with Jackson, I don't think I spoke as much to him because I was working a lot and I felt like space was good. But Cairo and Kaz, I spoke to them every single day.
Did you notice a difference either in you or in her or in the babies when they came out?
I did notice a difference. I noticed with Cairo especially because, there was a big gap between Jackson and Cairo. So it was 5 years. Cairo always listened to my voice. From the time he was born, and I think I have some Instagram videos of him at about 3 weeks. When I enter the room, his head always turned to where I was talking. And that always happened with Cairo. And I noticed the same thing with Kaz because me and Cairo always would play games around Kay's stomach. So the father's voice is huge, especially during pregnancy, to help with the child understanding who their parents are.
Can men positively impact the physical, emotional, spiritual wellness of a mother and infant in pregnancy and childbirth?
Absolutely. A father can not only positively impact, they can positive or negatively impact what a mom goes through because your words mean so much. How you interact with someone means so much. As a father, when the mom is carrying the child, when you enter the room, your presence will be felt. And that presence should be a warm, caring feeling because you want that child to be welcomed into the world with that same warm presence. You don't want whenever the child hears your voice, they feel the same tension the mom felt when you were in utero. If you're constantly screaming or if you're constantly having arguments or you're bringing stress to your wife or the mother of your child, when your voice is heard, your child will feel that same pressure when they enter the world. And I think that it's not only like an emotional thing. Physically, that type of stress can cause physical stress to women during pregnancy.
What has been the best part about you knowing your options and that you have choices with regard to pregnancy and childbirth?
The best part about me knowing my options was that I had the ability to protect my wife because the mother mortality rate in America for Black women is way higher than any other woman in this country. And I don't know the exact numbers, but we've done the research and it's way higher because people like to get upset at the whole Black Lives Matter thing. But the bottom line is they don't care as much about Black women as they care about other women. I had to take it upon myself to protect my wife. And knowing that I had options and that I could actually choose where, when, who, and how was going to have their hands on my wife and my child made me feel like I was a father. I felt like I was a protector in that moment. And I also know it made my wife feel at ease because she could kind of relax and be like, you know what, Devale got it. Devale got me. Let me make sure the baby's okay. And she didn't have to stress on those things. So having those options really made me feel better.